Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to look at the ECMWF extended model for today's second video. So we're going 6 weeks out with the ECM extended for the UK and the rest of Europe as well. So this is our 30 days / 6 weeks look at. And I shall get on with that for you very short. Just say that the first video release today was our 7 AM broadcast. And we're going to 10 to 14 there that will include all of the regular features coming up for you later on this afternoon. Please like, share, subscribe on all of the videos. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, so this is the week 1 mean sea level pressure anomaly, taking us from the 20th to the 27th of September. So, because it's going to be an unsettled week according to the ECM like last week, but actually now got more influence from high pressure. So high pressure is ridging in from the Atlantic into much of Western Europe, so the ridge into the UK, Ireland, France, extending into the Low Countries, Germany, and even going down into some southeastern parts of Europe, actually. There's lower pressure towards the south of Spain and into northern France. Then we've got low pressure around Iceland and Greenland, extending into Scandinavia and northeastern parts of Europe. That's where the coolest weather is going to be, with that trough of low pressure just there. We have got a little bit of high pressure from the Arctic as well, nosing into the extreme northeast of Europe and northwest of Russia. 500 millibar height anomaly looks like this. So again, we have this large ridge extending in from the Atlantic into much of West Europe, although there is a bit of a trough of low pressure around Spain. Low pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland, and then this trough of low pressure into the east and northeast of Europe. And so that's where the cool weather is going to be, of course, combined with a ridge from the Arctic. That's going to push cool air, even quite cold air, into the northeast of Europe potentially. So we've got a proper east-west split with the temperature anomaly, excluding Spain anyway. So Spain is actually a little bit cooler than average, but most of Western Europe, from like Germany back to Ireland, is warmer than normal. That extends down into the central bowl of the Med as well. Though Eastern, Northeast Europe, that's where the coolest weather is, with that trough of low pressure in the east of the northeast. So yes, we have colder than average temperatures through there. If we add on the temperature scale, we can see that we're going down to like 3 to 6 degrees below average across some of these eastern, northeastern parts of Europe. Whereas in the west of Europe, clearly, it's much warmer, and that extends down into the central bowl of the Med as well. So central bowl of Med comes out hotter than average, Spain and Portugal below average, and Greece and Turkey below average as well. Cool average around the Balkans, the Black Sea, and then extending northwards into most parts of Scandinavia. Quite a cool week in the east and northeast of Europe. Whoops, better get rid of that, I think. So, yes, let's just put that up. Okay, right, so the precipitation anomaly looks like this for week 1. Generally driving average in most parts of northwest Europe anyway, so Ireland, the UK to Germany, Belgium, Holland, Netherlands coming out driving average. Spain and Portugal significantly wetter than average though. France is near normal for precipitation there. Most parts of the central Med, especially Corsica, Sardinia and Italy, drive an average and extends over the Adriatic into the Balkans and down to southeastern parts of Europe as well. Black Sea is wetter than average, northeastern Europe, Latvia, Estonia, looking a little bit wetter than average there. And then going northwards, we find that many parts of Scandinavia, again, coming out a little bit above average for precipitation, although Finland might be a little bit on the drier side, perhaps. So it does vary from area to area, but generally central western areas look drier, northern and northeastern areas look wetter. Right, so that's week 1 done. Let's have a look at week 2. This will be the 27th of September to the 4th of October. So a bit of a change this week. We find that we get low pressure developing across the west of Europe. High pressure sort of pulls out into the Atlantic and goes northwards as well. So proper hints of northern blocking here from Scandinavia over towards Greenland, and then a mid-Atlantic ridge in combination. That pushes a trough of low pressure through the west of Europe, and then the ridge sort of extending down the eastern side of Europe. That's a little bit of a change, or quite a significant change actually, on the pattern. So this could start to draw out something a bit warmer up the eastern side of Europe, perhaps. Although, watch out for this high pressure here to be pulling in quite cold air from the Arctic and into northwestern Russia. This trough could be cooling things down into the west of Europe as well. Let's have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly, see how that's looking. So this one is showing, again, this shows the mid-Atlantic ridge extending up towards Greenland and Scandinavia, trough of low pressure in the Atlantic, or in the west of Europe, I should say, around Ireland, UK, and down into France. Also, a ridge is through here. That could start to bring up some warmth into the east and the southeast of Europe, perhaps. Temperature anomaly looks like that. So clearly cooling down across the west of Europe. Not going particularly cold, but clearly, nowhere as warm as it is in week 1. So we do see a little bit of a cool down, especially like Ireland's going slightly below average. Western France, slightly below average. Still pretty cool for Spain and Portugal as well. And so just a general cool down taking place in western Europe. Conversely, though, southern Europe is going hotter again. So we've got heat coming out of North Africa into much of the central part of the Mediterranean, extending over to Italy and into the Adriatic, possibly getting towards the Balkans as well, those warmer than average temperatures eventually. Still cool to cold in the northeast of Europe and in the west of Russia. Maybe not quite as cold as it is in week 1, however. And then we go through to the precipitation anomaly, and it is a very significant change that you see here, actually, going significantly wetter than average across that western part of Europe. So again, we've got the UK, we've got Ireland, we've got France, we've got much of Germany, we've got Belgium, Holland, Netherlands, going quite significantly wetter than average. That's quite a big flip. From week 1 to week 2. Conversely, further north, it's still pretty dry around Scandinavia and into the northeast of Europe and the far west of Russia. And then southern Europe just generally looking quite dry, really, especially in this southeastern corner around Greece and Turkey. And some parts of the central Baltic Med and into the south of Spain looking pretty dry as well there. Eastern Europe is nearer normal with precipitation, but I suspect it is probably drying out in that area, probably going a little bit drier at the eastern side of Europe. Right, week 3 will be the 4th through to the 11th of October. More changes, so heights are rising across southern parts of Europe, so most of the Med is under high pressure. If you're planning like a late summer, autumn trip to the Mediterranean, that doesn't look too bad at all. Meanwhile, there's lower pressure to the north of the UK between Scotland and Iceland. So we're probably bringing like a westerly into west of Europe, a ridge. The ridge is like receding back into the west of Russia. So I suspect it's just returning to like a westerly type flow. Let's have a look at 500 millibar height anomaly. That's how it looks, doesn't it? So the blocking signal is reducing and receding and going back into the northwest of Russia. Lower pressure around Iceland, higher pressure around Spain, and that just draws in like a flat westerly, particularly to the west of Europe. Anyway, something a little bit different could be taking place in the east of Europe. So the far east of Europe still cooler than average, from like the Baltic Sea down towards the Black Sea, below average temperatures there. Warmer than average through southern Europe, most of the Mediterranean, particularly Italy, back to Spain, looking hotter than average. And going warmer again around Ireland and the UK, and just extending in towards Norway as those west to southwesterly winds, start to come back. Many sort of western central parts of Europe probably around average for temperature, or have no signal. Week 3 precipitation. So we see that it's driving average around Spain and Portugal. That's as the Azores high is ridging in through there, of course, and it extends into the southern part of the Med and into North Africa as well. Wetter than average, hints anyway, not a strong signal, but hints of being wetter than average, I think, for the UK, for Ireland, probably for the far north of France and into the Low Countries, and probably for Denmark and Western Germany, and maybe southern Norway as well. So the areas that are exposed to like that west-southwesterly, they're wetter, and we've got high pressure down here, it's drier. Northern Europe looks a little bit drier than average still. Far north Scandinavia, some higher pressure up there. And the southeastern and eastern part of the Mediterranean looks relatively dry through there as well. A lot of white through those central and eastern parts of Europe, indicating either average precipitation or probably no signal. And then we head on into week 4, which will be the 11th through to the 18th of October. So that doesn't seem to be working there, so that's not gone all that well. There we go. So let's have a look at this. So we go through the week 4, right? Okay, so week 4 will look like that, with high pressure across many southern and western parts of Europe. So it just looks like high pressure is going further on for October, probably taking over, losing the lower pressure. I would think the jet stream is being pushed northwards again with the lower pressure. So just probably general transition through the first half of October into higher pressure. This is the week for 500 millibar height anomaly. Again, quite a bit of high pressure across the west and southwest of Europe in particular. The week 5 temperature anomaly is going to be warmer than average in most western parts of Europe. Still cooler than average across Eastern Europe. So it is quite a cold sort of period coming up over this eastern side of Europe, from like western, southwestern Russia down through the Black Sea into Greece and Turkey. Generally, a lot of the time it's below average. These western parts of Europe just generally warmer than average through the next 4 weeks. And the precipitation anomaly, weakening signal, but I think we can say that generally most western, southwest parts of Europe are getting drier. The wetter weather looks like it's more up here, with a jet stream being pushed northwards by the ridge. Right, so that's your 30-day look ahead. Let's just extend out to weeks 5 and 6, because why not? So this is week 5 mean sea level pressure anomaly, showing the high pressure starts to move sort of eastwards. So it looks like the high pressure is setting up more towards the east, southeastern part of Europe. Maybe, it doesn't really show it, but maybe some lower pressure of a jet stream returning through there during the second half of October. 500 millibar height anomaly. Again, sort of has that ridge down in this southern southeastern part of Europe. There is higher pressure towards the Canadian side of Greenland as well. I reckon this is probably returning us back to some lower pressure across northern and northwestern Europe, but it doesn't show it, convincingly in a clear-cut way. Overall, warmer than average in most western parts of Europe again. In week 5, the far east of Europe, the most cooler than average temperatures beginning to fade out. And it's going wetter again through the northwest of Europe, so Scandinavia, Ireland and the UK, possibly the Low Countries and northern France, turning wetter once more. So that does look like a more unsettled week again across the northwest of Europe, drier across many of these southern parts of Europe. And then finally we're up to week 6, which is going to be the 25th of October to the 1st of November. This is how it looks today. So again, we've got this ridge in this southern and southeastern part of Europe. There's a trough of low pressure digging in over Scandinavia, and there is a bit of a hint of a mid-Atlantic ridge towards Greenland type pattern. So that might, it's a long way off, it's 6 weeks ahead, it might start to pull down some colder air into the far west and northwest of Europe as well, while the ridge across southern and southeast Europe will draw up hotter air perhaps into that eastern, southeastern part of Europe. Being week 6, 500 millibar height anomaly looks like that. So it's sort of definite hints of like a trough getting into Scandinavia and a ridge in the middle of the Atlantic, which you would think is probably going to get wind into the north across those northern, western parts of Europe, with some high pressure, across southern Europe, pulling up warmth into that eastern, southeastern part of Europe. The temperature anomaly looks like that. So it doesn't go cold on average across Scandinavia, which you'd expect with a trough of low pressure in over Scandinavia, combined with mid-Atlantic ridge. But I think we see, but generally western, northern Europe looks like it's cooling down. We're losing the above average temperatures and going to near normal or no signal. So I reckon that's showing like cool down. Meanwhile, southern Europe looking pretty warm, across many parts of the Mediterranean. And week 6, precipitation anomaly, lastly, looks like that. So again, we definitely see hints of that mid-Atlantic ridge, showing it's driving average in the middle of the North Atlantic and extending up towards Iceland and Greenland as well. It's wetter over Scandinavia, of course, as it's be getting cold by this point, end of October. So about above average precipitation, probably indicating, you know, quite a bit of snow across many parts of Scandinavia, especially further northwards. So it could be, you know, winter could start to bite there across Scandinavia in that last week of October. Just generally a bit wetter than average, above average precipitation, much of northern and western Europe, drier across southern and southeastern parts of Europe. So quite an interesting end there, you know, hinting at winter maybe beginning to dig in across the far north of Europe by the end of October, which you would probably expect by that point, you know, for much of Scandinavia to be getting quite cold by the end of October. Otherwise, it looks like a generally quite a warm sort of period for much of northern and western Europe, particularly western Europe actually, in for a lot of warm weather through October. So again, above average temperatures would be expected, I think, many parts of West Europe during October. East Europe looks colder. And then maybe by the end, a little bit of a flip beginning to take place. But, of course, that is 6 weeks ahead. Right, so that's your EC Extended this week. So if you enjoyed the video, please can you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for doing that. We are going to be back later on with 10 to 14 day. It's going to include all upgrade features. I shall see you for that in a couple of hours' time. But for this one, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.